Yeah, life happens fast, and the next thing you know, you're irrelevant and old. It's gonna happen to every single one of you. Let's get into it.
Skip it up and that up.
So I'm sure many of you know, and if you watch DSP Gaming, you know he went viral for his terrible gameplay of Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. It's a game some of you may have heard of, especially if you're a Nintendo fan. I don't know. It's a little series that's been around for a while. Well, I can't judge Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom because I've never really been a Zelda fan. The only Legend of Zelda I've ever beaten was A Link to the Past for the SNES. Yes, I'm old. Kind of ties into the rest of the theme of this video. So, Zelda not being catered towards me is, in and of itself, not really a big deal. This is what Legend of Zelda director Eiji Aonuma, if I'm saying his last name wrong, I've tried 15 times. This is what he had to say about my age demographic when it comes to Legend of Zelda, because there's a lot of people who say the series has changed and doesn't feel like the older Legend of Zelda games. Nintendo doesn't care. And this is what the director of the Zelda series had to say about that. This comes from MSN.com. I'll read it to you, then we'll discuss. The chances of Nintendo going back to the old school Zelda formula seems remote as Tears of the Kingdom's director talks about the future. The problem with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is that they've proven so much more successful than previous Zelda games that if you don't like them, then it's not clear if Nintendo will ever return to the old formula. Beyond remasters and remakes, there isn't much financial incentive for Nintendo to reverse their current course, although, like most things, they've rarely commented one way or the other. But the question was recently put to them, and the answer was not as ambiguous as you might imagine. As a matter of fact, the director kind of put it straightforward how he feels about older gamers, while also being bad news for anyone that was hoping for a return to the old ways. This is what Eiji Aonuma, God, I'm butchering his last name, I know. This is what he had to say. It's difficult to say anything about the future. That being said, thanks to previous Zelda games, a game like Tears of the Kingdom now exists. This game originated from ideas that we've had in the past. We always try to create something that offers more than previous titles. In that respect, we aren't really concerned with our older gamers anymore. We prefer to look to the future. Now, of course, first thing there is money talks. And I looked up numbers, and Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild has sold 31 million copies, and we're already at 10 million copies and climbing for Tears of the Kingdom. So this new direction for Zelda is wildly successful, and there's money to be made there, and that's first and foremost. But yeah, Nintendo doesn't have to worry about the people who were buying Zelda for the Legend of Zelda for the NES when they were 5 or 6 years old. That's around how old I was. I'm 41, soon to be 42. And the reality of it is, and I verified these numbers again, the key demographic for gamers, still despise that word, I made a video on that back in the day and I still feel that way about that word, is 18 to 34. And it's not that I necessarily care about Zelda in and of itself. It's not that I necessarily care about getting older. But it hit weird to see how far I was out of the key demographic. It made me realize how much older I am. It's weird as a kid, you know, I'm kind of getting deep here, but when you're like 10 years old, you look at 20 as like an adult, you know, and then you hit 20 and you're like, man, I'm still young. I can't even technically drink alcohol yet. And then you turn 21 and it's like, oh man, I'm 21. I can do everything now. It's like, man, I'm old. You think that at 21. And when you're a kid, God, when you're 10 and you look at someone who's 30, it's like, you don't think they're old, but you're like, they're an adult. And 40 is like, all right, grandpa. And then the next thing you know, man, you blink and you are the grandpa. I'm not a grandpa, but you are the 40-something year old. I'm going to be 42 in less than 4 days. Then you are the person that's no longer in the key demographic. Then you are the person that developers and publishers are like, yeah, they're out of our main age range that makes us the most money, so they're secondary. Now, I'm looking at the age right here, and under 18 years is, in 2022, was 24% of people that game are under 18 years. 18 to 34, like I said, is the biggest demographic at 36% in 2022. And 35 to 44 years, where I am, is 13%, which is not a small number, but that big drop is interesting. And it's sobering, because it makes you realize how fast time flies. It's weird because, you don't think about time. You don't think about, like, if you're hanging out with someone. God, I remember being in my 20s. I remember being in the early side of the key demographic for gaming. And you hang out with people, and you're with them every weekend, and you're getting hammered and whatever, the crazy crap you would get into. And you say goodnight one day. There's a saying about this too. I'm not trying to be cliche, because it's so true. And even before I heard this saying, I thought this, and it was like, you say goodnight to these people, or you stayed at their house because you were pissed drunk. In the morning, you said, I'll see you later. And there were times where it was the last time you said, I'll see you later, because time just flies. And the next thing you know, one person's going to college in that direction, or this person's getting married in this direction, or this person's having kids, or whatever. And the next thing you know, you go from 10 to 20. And I remember turning 30 and being like, holy crap, I'm 30. And then you blink again, and then you're in your 40s. And you're no longer the key demographic. I'll always be gaming, as long as I'm not dead. But it's interesting and sobering, even though I'm not a diehard fan of The Legend of Zelda, to hear the director saying, we're not concerned with the older gamers anymore. I'm an older and irrelevant gamer. I'm not the person lining their pockets the most. And I'm willing to accept it, and I'm okay to accept it. But it just makes you think. Life goes by fast. Appreciate it, especially if you're younger. Because one day you'll wake up, if you're 20 now, and it'll feel like you just blinked, and you'll be almost 42. This is Rich at Review Tech USA signing out. Have a good one.